Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT16, and BT16 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be a brand new iteration on the DigiPolice deck, or D-Brigades. I guess the two are basically married at this point, considering all of the best DigiPolice cards are also D-Brigade cards. But in case you're actually wondering what this deck does, well, it doesn't really change a lot between its core game plan from when it was D-Brigades or what the DigiPolice is doing. So it's just trying to be a more control-y or defensive style deck focused on blocking and spawning lots of Digimon to be able to block, halting and trying to stop the opponent's overall aggression. Then it wants to take advantage of the fact that it could spawn a wide field to be able to make its own offensive plays with all of those Digimon that you're going to be spawning. So you get to pick and choose how you want to be offensive and defensive. Then the deck has some pretty decent ways on utilizing extra resources, like utilizing the trash and putting cards to the top of the deck, and utilizing cards off the top of your deck for some very specific abilities and ways to be able to maintain itself. Then, unfortunately, when it comes to the deck's overall weaknesses, there's just a lot of anti-swarm tech, so any matchups against decks that can include those types of cards are going to be a little bit on the harder side, on top of the fact that the damage output isn't exactly the highest, so you're not playing with a whole lot of ways to multi-attack or just gain security attack plus, so your deck is going to be a little bit on the slower side, giving the opponent more possibilities to be able to react and respond to what you're doing. Then the lack of meaningful removal is still kind of an issue. It does get better with a lot of the new tech and tools that we have to work with, but it's not necessarily as good as some other decks when it comes to just removing problematic cards the second we need it removed. But the deck is still a very fun deck with lots of different ways to be able to customize it because of both D-Brigades and DigiPolice. So with all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile, starting off with the Digitamers. So I am only going to be running 4 Digitamers. If you run a 5th one, you could kind of just run whatever you feel like, but the main Digitama of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Missymon, because this is more D-Brigade and DigiPolice interaction, and we need to try to DP boost our Digimon to hit over specific numbers so we could get over the opponent's walls, and this card is just one of the best, if not the best card that's doing it, because it's utilizing cards from our trash with a D-Brigade or DigiPolice in their traits, putting 3 of them to the top of our deck to give our Digimon plus 2000 DP when we're attacking, which is pretty decent. Then when it comes to the level 3s, I'm still going to be running an all Commandramon lineup because there's no reason for me not to. So I'm going to be running 4 copies of the BT14 Commandramon, because this is still just the best Commandramon, because it's our dedicated digging or searching tool, looking for D-Brigade and DigiPolice traded cards off the top 5, and its inheritable ability is where the protection is going to be, so it's going to make our Digimon as sticky as they can possibly be. Then I'm going to be running 4 copies of the BT16 Commandramon, so this is just more DP boosting, both on the inheritable and the native ability during all turns, to make our defensive and offensive plays that much stronger. Then I'm still going to be sticking around with 4 copies of the BT4 Commandramon, because this is just one of the best cards to spit out more Commandramons when it's going to get deleted. And then I'm also going to be running 2 copies of the EX3 Commandramon. This is kind of the most flexible spot, but I still just like the extra protection, so having decoy for our D-Brigades, which the vast majority of the deck is still pretty decent. Then when it comes to the level 4s, I'm going to be running a pretty simple level 4 lineup of 4 copies of High Commandramon. So High Commandramon, yes, is also treated as a Commandramon, which just increases our overall Commandramon synergy, while also being able to play Commandramon or D-Police traded cards that cost 3 or less off the top of our deck when he's attacking, so it just incentivizes more Swarm for utilizing this card more aggressively. Then its inheritable ability we already saw off of the BT14 Commandramon, which is just more protection, so we have multiple ways to be able to protect our Digimon. Then I'm going to be running 4 copies of the BT16 Sealstramon. So this is a fantastic new inclusion because it has a nice on-play and when digivolving ability by returning 3 cards from our trash with D-Brigade or DigiPolice in its traits to the top of our deck. This Digimon gains Rush and can't be blocked, which is really important on making sure we can get damage across and making sure that our damage actually can get across. Then its inheritable ability is the same thing that we saw with the BT16 Commandramon, where it's just more DP boosting so our Digimon can hit higher numbers. And then the last level 4 of the deck can kind of just be whatever you feel like you want it to be. I'm just going to be utilizing 1 copy of Mechanorimon because Mechanorimon's pretty cute on all the different ways that we have to play him. Him naturally being a blocker with Armor Purge is already pretty decent. He has a nice on-play ability to be able to tuck a DigiPolice card underneath him to de-digivolve one of the opponent's Digimon by 1, which is some pretty decent form of anti-tempo, and he can attack, but he can't attack when he has no Digivolution sources, but ideally we're going to want to try to leave him up as a blocker, so that way we can try to spawn out whatever we're putting underneath him. Then when it comes to the level 5s, I'm just going to be running, again, more D-Brigades and DigiPolice. So I'm going to be playing the 4 copies of Cargodramon, which is still a solid card because his on-play and when digivolving ability just, again, continues to let us swarm the field with more D-Brigade or DigiPolice traded cards that cost 4 or less, while also being able to fill up our trash with whatever we just didn't play. Then he has a nice All Turns ability where once per turn, when one of your other Digimon is deleted, ideally off of our protection or just us blocking, then we get to check the top 3 and play out a Commandramon off the top and then again trash the rest, filling up our trash and filling up our field at the same time when things are going to be removed. Then on top of that, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the brand new Tankdramon, which really brings in the removal package to make it a lot stronger than what people might give it credit for. So he does have an on-play and when digivolving ability to check the top 3 cards of our deck, and for each D-Brigade and DigiPolice traded card among them, we can reduce the play cost of all of the opponent's Digimon by 1 until the end of their turn, and then return the revealed cards to the top or bottom of the deck, and then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 4 or less. So the fact that it's reducing all of the opponent's Digimon's play cost just makes our play cost based removal that much more effective, especially for knowing we're going to hit multiple D-Brigade and DigiPolice to further extend the reach of our removal type abilities. Then he has a nice inheritable ability that is really annoying for the opponent to deal with because it's just more anti-tempo in the form of de-digivolve during all turns when one of your other Digimon with the D-Brigade or DigiPolice is played, which we have tons of ways of playing them by card effects, and that de-digivolve one could again reduce their Digimon into a state that might be more optimal for our removal to reach, or just again anti-tempo the opponent out of what their potential playline could have been. And then when it comes to the level 6, it really doesn't matter what supporting level 6s you're going to be running, it's just the main level 6 is still going to be the 4 copies of Brigadramon. So this card is an absolute beast on how good this card is at bringing home the deck. So its when digivolving ability lets us delete up to a total of 7 play cost worth of Digimon on the opponent's field, which is really good in combination with that Tankdramon increasing our range. Then he has an ability that triggers on the opponent's turn where all of your Digimon with the D-Brigade trait gain blocker. So this is where we're going to be forming our defensive backbone. Then on top of that, he has a third ability where at the end of your turn, once per turn, we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, and we get to play a total of 7 worth of play cost of cards with D-Brigade or DigiPolice in their traits from among them, and then trash the rest, which again, we know isn't that big of a deal because we have ways to use the trash and put them back on top for abilities like this to recycle and reuse our cards over and over again. So he's just doing everything that the deck wants between his removal, defensive capabilities, and offensive capabilities. Then, again, like I kind of just stated before, the last 2 supporting megas could kind of be whatever you want. If you want, you could run a Vikemon Ace, because it's still just a really good card, and a level 6 Ace could still be good enough to try to anti-tempo the opponent and stop them from wanting to attack. But I'm just going to be sticking with some Dark Dramons just to keep things a little bit on the simple side, and Aces tend to be a liability at times. So I'm going to be running one copy of the BT4 Digimon just as a good, easy, instant rusher, because basically this card only costs 3 for a level 6 that'll have the rush effect. So what's making him cost 3 is his on-play ability to return up to 5 Digimon with D-Brigade in their traits from our trash to the top of our deck, and then we get a gain 2 memory each card we put in, which ideally we're going to be putting in all 5, so it's just an easy way to just try to sneak in some extra damage to close out games. Then I'm also going to be running one copy of the EX3 Digimon, so this kind of is similar, where we're going to be using him more for the offensive capabilities, but he does have some good removal to him as well. So during your turn, once per turn, when you play another Digimon with D-Brigade in its traits, we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon whose play cost is equal to or less than the Digimon we just played, and then we get to unsuspend this card. So we get to try to control the field when we play out another Digimon, which we have plenty of ways to do in the deck already, and the unsuspend can help, again, make some offensive or defensive plays, and when we would Digivolve into this card, we get to return up to 5 Digimon with D-Brigade in its traits from our trash to the top of our deck to reduce the Digivolution cost by 1 for each card we return this way, so we could potentially go up into them for free with a nice full trash. And then if you wanted to try to squeeze some deck space in for level 7s, the 2 best level 7s that I can think of is going to be either Quartzmon or Death Xmon. They're completely optional, but still really good cards to think about nonetheless. Then when it comes to the Tamers, I'm just going to be keeping it simple and just running 3 copies of Shu Yulin. So Shu is going to be the dedicated memory setting tamer, so we're always going to be at 3, which is really good because a lot of our plays are based off of that. Then she has the Mind Link ability with Digimon that have either X Antibody or DigiPolice in their traits, so it's not 100% of the cards, but it's a really good amount of cards that she's going to be interacting with, so we could get the Mind Link ability off. And the inheritable abilities we're trying to give our Digimon is the fact that they're going to gain Alliance and Reboot if they're DigiPolice or X Antibody, so it doesn't, again, work with everything, but it works with exactly what we want it to, which is the majority of the deck. Then her End of Turns ability just lets us spit her out when we need to. Then when it comes to the options, I'm just going to be keeping it simple and just running a nice well-rounded option package. So I'm going to be running 4 copies of Defense Training because there's no reason not to. This is a monocolor black deck, and this is one of the best black searching tools in the entire game. Just generically looking at the top 2 for any black card and adding into our hand is really good, with the delay ability to basically reduce our Digivolution cost by 2, utilizing this delay effect. Then I'm also going to be running 3 copies of the Metropolitan Police Department option. So this card is basically replacing the memory boost of the deck because it's doing something very similar, where it's just, again, a generic searching tool for our D-Brigade and DigiPolice traded cards, and then its delay ability lets us play a D-Brigade or DigiPolice card with a cost of 4 or less from among the top and trash the rest. Then the security ability is basically doing the exact same as the main ability, so we're always getting value off of this card. Then I'm also going to be running 3 copies of DCD Bomb as the removal option for the deck. So we get to D-Digivolve 1 on one of the opponent's Digimon, which might not seem like a lot, but we do have some extra D-Digivolve thanks to the new Tankdramon to be able to make this a little bit better. But we also get to return 3 cards with Digipolice or D-Brigade from our trash to the top of our deck to delete up to 6 play cost worth of Digimon on the opponent's field, which again, in combination with Tankdramon, means that we could potentially increase the range of the effectiveness of this card, while it being a security bomb activating its main. But for the most part, that's pretty much it for the deck. The deck is pretty solid in terms of how good the defensive and offensive capabilities can be. It's more so focused on the defense rather than the offense, but it's still a really powerful and impactful deck in the right hands. And the deck, it does have other useful cards that you could think about utilizing it to upgrade and spice up the deck, given what you have access to, the meta that you're anticipating, and what abilities that you want to try to prioritize as a player. Then when it comes to some potential future upgrades, the deck really doesn't have any more DigiPolice or D-Brigade centric cards, but we do get a couple of indirect support with some new options that could really help spice up what the deck is trying to do to make it better.